Okay, it is 6 o'clock. Hello and welcome to this evening's webinar. I'm a good board member, aren't I? This is April Reardon, a capacity building director here at Habitat for Humanity of Minnesota. Excited to have you all here with us. The webinar will be 90 minutes long. We are recording the webinar and it will be available online as early as tomorrow. And we will send a follow-up email to everyone with a link to that recording. We have sent out links to Lori's slides and some handouts ahead of time, but we'll do that afterwards as well. If you happen to miss that or didn't have it, we can definitely send that out as well. If we can go, we'll just move forward here, but all participants are muted right now. So if you're trying to talk to us, there's a reason we can't hear you. We do have 54 people registered for the webinar tonight, and I know that some of you are participating with multiple people. So you might be sitting around a table or around one computer or with it up on a projector and just listening through your computer. But there are some other ways to participate today. If you are calling in, you will be muted, but we may have some opportunities towards the end of the webinar when we can go ahead and have you just talk with us and share your comments and your questions. You can also, in your control panel, and this is a little blurry here, but you can see where you're able to type questions in, and it's called questions, but it's really, that's your opportunity to comment as well. And so Lori will be monitoring that throughout the webinar, and it's a really interactive session. And so we really want you to be familiar with that and be ready to use that and type those things in there. And we really just have this one poll. Like I said, I know that some of you are participating with multiple attendees all in one space, so it might not reflect, so our actual attendee list might not reflect the true number of what we have. So we wanted to see if you are, have more than one person with you with one registration, if you could let us know that, and we'll use that information to help keep track of how many folks are attending. Almost everybody has voted. It looks like many of you are participating individually, but maybe we're still getting some others logged in. Oh, here we go. And something to note too about the questions panel, about typing in your comments and your questions. The other attendees can't see that. So if you're having a technical problem or something and you want to send that question, I'll get to see that. Or if you have a clarification or question for Lori, she'll look at that, or she'll let you know too if I'm looking for comments about this, and then she'll share those. But they aren't automatically seen by everybody else. So not quite everybody has voted, but I think I am going to go ahead and close the poll. But most of you are participating individually, but we do have almost 10% of you have 3 or more people participating with one registration, and another 4% or so have a couple people participating. So that helps us get a better sense of how many people are on today. And there we go. And so without further ado, I just want to introduce today's presenter. Due to the incredible response at the breakout session that Lori led at our 2013 OLE Conference just last month, we were walking out of the session and Lori was excited and generously offered to repeat the session via webinar for as many board members and staff as we could get to attend. And so we are so excited to be able to do that. It was a quick turnaround, and we wanted to sort of build on the momentum from the conference and get this out to you. We've been working with Lori for a while, and we'll continue to do that to get her expertise into the hearts and minds of all of our affiliate staff and volunteers. So I'm going to hand it over to you, Lori. Thank you so much for doing this, and I will be monitoring for any technical problems, but hand over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, April, and thanks for being my partner today. Welcome, everyone. I'd like to have you practice using the chat box, or sorry, the question box. I will remember to call it question box. If you would, just type into the question box yes or no if you have the slides in front of you and the worksheet. Those are the two things I'd like you to have, is the for sure the worksheet. It's a two-sided document or 2 pages depending on how you printed it. Just type in yes or no so I can see how many have it, and if you do not, I've got the link up right on the screen. So Dave, you'll want to go to the link. It's a bit.ly link, bit.ly/HFH for Habitat for Humanity slides _ I'm a good board member. If you go to that link, the slides are there and the worksheet is there. The worksheet is more important to me for this purposes than the slides. You can see the slides on the screen, but the worksheet you will not be able to see on the screen, and we will use the worksheet interactively. And in fact, while I'm waiting for you to type in, what I'd like you to do, those of you who have the worksheet, just fill in for yourself, whether you're a staff person or a board member, the talents that you bring to your organization. What are the talents that you bring? And it might be 1, it might be 2, but what are they? Just fill them in on the A, B, C, D at the top of the worksheet there. I'm looking for many, many more people to type into the question box. I've only got 6 people that have typed in so far, so let me know on the question box if you have the worksheet in front of you. And you'll want to just type yes or no. Line blocked, but my work site firewall. I'm going to let April handle that one, Jim. So if you are just joining us, and a few people have just joined us, the question box is your friend. That's how we communicate together. It's as if we are in the same room, and I can see what's happening. You can either click on the link that was provided to you in the email you got from April about an hour ago saying this webinar kicks off in an hour. There's a link in there to the Dropbox folder. Or
I also chatted that right at the beginning of the webinar.
Great.
And so you can just click directly onto it.
You can click on the link in the chat box. It's live for you there, folks, and that will take you right to the Dropbox folder with the slides and the worksheet. The most important thing to me is that you have the worksheet. So without further ado, I'm going to let you, April, help Margaret and Jim there. Would folks type into the question box, those of you who are at your computers, Renee, Robert, Rosalind, Tom, there's lots of you, type into the question box yes or no if you've got the worksheet in front of you. And just a quick yes or no lets me know that I can go ahead and jump in and begin here. So lots of you have yeses, some of you have no's. So the link is in various places. It's on the screen. You can use the one on the screen and just type it in to your, it says Dropbox won't work here. So April, I'm going to have you send some emails out if you want to. The worksheet I will bring up and have you just take a look at. So here's what you can do. If you don't have the worksheet in front of you, just grab a piece of paper for now. And question number 1 is, I bring the following talents to the board or to my organization, because I know there's some staff on the call with us. And Jerry, I want to say a hello to you. Thanks for being with me twice in one day. Fill in what talents you bring to your organization, to your Habitat for Humanity affiliate. And it could be 1 talent, 2 talents, more than A, B, C, or D. And I will go ahead and begin, but we will continue to use this worksheet as we go throughout the session. So do your best. If April needs to do any emailing, get it out to folks. I want to make sure that I get as much content to you as possible. You heard my name, you heard about me. I'm a fundraising coach. I do trainings, webinars. I have an online coaching community that some of you are a part of. And I help organizations raise millions of dollars from individual donors. my goal is that this is how you are feeling by the end of the session, whether you're board or your staff, even if you've had a really long day, like I know many of you have had. What this session is about finding the things, the tools, and the communication that will actually cause a board experience to be even better than it already is. So I like to define 2 words, and they are, I've defined them in every training session, and they are fundraising. The first is fundraising, the raising of assets and resources from various sources for the support of an organization. This is the money part, the part that gives people heart palpitations. It also causes people to have sweaty palms. Not a lot of people like to ask for dollars. The other definition, though, is a definition of development. And what that is, it's the process your organization goes through to increase public understanding of what you do and why you need the money. Doesn't mean you have to ask for it, but it does mean you have to let people know how important your work is, how life-changing it is, how helpful it can be for a family to break out of that cycle of poverty. And I believe that it's everyone's role to participate in the development process. So those of you who are having challenges with the worksheet, just get out a piece of paper if you want to. And on that piece of paper, you want to just take a look at the screen real quickly. Following elements are what I bring to the organization or to our board. And you're just going to list a minimum of 2 things. Do you like to public speak? Do you like to volunteer your time? Do you like to take notes at the board meetings? What is it? What are the skills that you have? And I'm going to keep going here. I know that you're busy. Your volunteers are incredibly busy. Your board leadership is busy. Everybody's got a lot on their plate, so we want to be as clear as possible in making sure that our board experience is exciting, interesting, and it actually provides the organization exactly that which we need. So, what are the board duties and responsibilities? I'm going to go through this list quickly, and then I'd like you to take a moment and actually, as I'm reading these things on the list, if you're using a sheet of paper as your worksheet, just jot down a yes or a no to each of the items that I'm going to list. And on the worksheet, this is section 2, if you've got the worksheet in front of you. So I'm going to read a number of the items that are in this section right here that you're seeing on my screen. Okay. So, determining the organization's mission and purpose. Does your organization provide training and support so that board members can do this? Yes or no? Engage in strategic thinking and planning. Does your organization provide training and support so that board members can do this? Yes or no? Approve and monitor the organization's work. Again, a yes or no that you receive training and support to do this as a board member. Ensure adequate financial resources. Are you providing some training and support so board members can be helpful in this area? Yes or no? Provide effective fiscal oversight. Do you provide training in this area or support in this area? Yes or no? Ensuring sound risk management policies. Do you provide training and support in this area? Yes or no? There's more. I know. You're thinking, could she stop already? Do you provide training and support so that board members can help select and support the chief executive, the executive director, and review their performance? Yes or no? Do you help enhance the organization's public image as a board? And do you provide training and support in that area as well? And then in selecting and orienting new board members, do you provide training and support so board members can do that and be powerful doing that? Yes or no? And maintaining a board structure and board operations, do you provide some training and support around that? Yes or no? And the last is in organizing and participating on committees and task forces. Do you provide training and support in that area? Yes or no? All right. So some of you have the worksheet in front of you and some have not. I want to welcome those who just arrived. If you are able to access the link on Dropbox, fabulous. That will get you this worksheet. You will want to print it out, or you'll want to open it up in a Word document. And we will use this throughout the session. If you are not able to access it, just go ahead and use a plain sheet of paper. And we just went through the section 2. What I'd like you to do is type into the question box for me, did anyone have 100% yeses? If you did, would you type in yes? Now's your time to count them up and see how many you had. Did anyone have, let's see, 7, 8, 9, 10. Did anyone have 9 yeses? Type in a yes if you did. Did you have 8 yeses? You had all yes. Irene, awesome. So your organization, your affiliate, tell me which affiliate you're with. You provide training and support for the board in all of those 10 areas. That's awesome. And if you were in the room with me, I would put a little gold star on your name tag. So we'll do an air high five. Alexandria, perfect. Anyone have 7 yeses? Yes. You just say yes, 7. Robert, great. Anyone have 6 yeses? The number that you had, 6, 5, 4. Did anybody have 0? And I promise I won't say your name out loud if you had 0. Just type into the question box. We're using the question box here. I'll wait for a couple more of you to respond. What was the number of yeses you had on the questions from number 2 section on the worksheet? We had some 5s. What else have we got? I promised you this is an interactive session, so you have to, yes, there you go. There's some more coming. A few more 5s, some 8s. So we've got some support for some areas. We've got a few that are 4s. Middle of the roaders, we've got 4, 5, and 6 quite a bit. Doesn't look like, or they're not telling me, if you got a 0 or a 1, no one's telling me that. That's good news that either we don't have it or you're just keeping it to yourselves. But hopefully you're seeing there's some areas to provide some training and to get people some support for what you're looking for them to be doing. So let's keep going with the slides on the screen. What people are looking for, I believe especially volunteers and board members, that means, they're looking to be noticed, liked, maybe inspired and touched by the work that they're supporting. They want you to do what they say if they're asked their opinion. And if you can't do what they say, they want to know why. They want to be missed if they're gone. So if they don't show up at that board meeting and no one notices, we're now training people to not show up because we don't even notice that they're not there. These come from a blog post that Seth Godin, my hero, marketing guru and author, has written. No one will tell you these are the things they're looking for, but these are what they are looking for. So what I'd like to know and you can be talking amongst yourselves. The good news is we can't hear you, but I would like someone to be designated out of the 30 plus, 40 plus people that are online with us. Tell me, type into the question box, one person designated, what are the characteristics of a good board member? What does it mean to be a good board member? Just type in a characteristic. Engaged. How so, Bridget? What do they do? What do you mean by engaged? And Megan's got the same word. So be as specific as you can. What are some of the characteristics? They listen. They have some passion. What else? They speak up. They participate. Great. They come prepared for the meeting. Awesome. They articulate our mission. They're enthusiastic about it. I love that one. They're engaged about what the work we do, or they do participate in the work we do. They're prepared. So a lot of passion. But there's some measurables that you're talking about here too. Good organizational skills, great. Love that, Patrick. Okay, so some of the things that you're talking about are tougher to measure: engagement, passion. Provide valuable work and participate in subcommittees. I love that, Jim. They show their commitment that way. They're accountable. So we're going to dive into some of these a little bit deeper. I believe the secret to creating an effective board is communication. It's just like real estate has location, location, location as its most important factor. Being a great board member and being supported so you can be a great board member means there has to be communication both ways, from the staff to the board to the staff, and then amongst peer-to-peer conversations. There's an article you can read after the session today, another day, and that is an article called "What Makes an Awesome Board Member?" The man who wrote this, Brad Feld, was talking about corporate board members, but I believe this is pretty straightforward, and they apply to our work in what I call the social profit arena. The first thing is they're prepared and they keep commitments. They show up to the meetings. They show up on time. They don't leave early. They do their homework. They're present. They don't check their phones or do email during meetings. So they're prepared and keep commitments. The second key characteristic is they speak their minds. They don't fear bringing up uncomfortable topics. They don't come up to you after the meeting and tell you what they think. They tell you in the meeting. And they have some clarity about what their job is, and they talk about that with others. Number 3, they build independent relationships. So they get to know each other. They see each other outside of board meetings. They get to know the individuals on the staff. They take the time to meet with clients and folks that are the volunteers that are helping on builds. Number 4, they're resource rich. Now, I don't mean they're wealthy always in dollars, but they are wealthy in what they bring to the table. So as we started, and I'm going to go back and keep catching the people up that are just joining us. As we started, we were looking at and using this worksheet here. I asked you to fill in what are the talents that you bring to your organization, to the board. And if you've got at least 2 talents, and I'm guessing many of you've got more than that, you are resource rich. So in just a moment, I'm going to have you measure or give yourself a ranking in the areas that I'm talking about here about what makes an awesome board member. Number 5, they're strategically engaged but operationally distant. What do I mean by that? Now, it may vary from affiliate to affiliate, but board members who are making sure that we have the right materials at a build might not be their role, but board members who are making sure that we've got a strategic plan, a fundraising plan, a good annual calendar, we've got some good governance practices, that's strategically engaged. Now, helping on a build is key, and giving feedback on the committee that selects the families, those are key. But there's some difference between being sort of in the making of the sausage and actually deciding what kind of sausage we make. And board members' role is more about deciding what kind of sausage we make. I know, we're making houses, Lori, not sausage. So I'm going to take a moment and have you go back to your worksheet or your piece of paper and give yourself a ranking from 1 to 5. 1 is low or no, and 5 is always or high. So the first one is I'm prepared and I keep commitments. 1 through 5, you want to rank yourself. Number 2, I speak my mind respectfully and clearly. And number 1 is low again, number 5 is high. You want to answer that. Jim, I'll answer your question when I get to number 5 on there, okay? Number 3, I help build independent relationships for my organization. Again, 1 is low, 5 is high. You want to rank yourself. Number 4, I'm resource rich. And if you don't think you are, go back up to your talent list up on number 1. What resources do you bring to the table? Contacts in the community, a lot of family members who help on builds, a willingness to sign letters personally, volunteer at just about everything that we've got going on. Whatever it is, tell us 1 low, 5 high. And then number 5, I'm strategically engaged but operationally distant. All right, so why is operationally distant a good quality, Jim says? For the board, it's critical. In order to grow an organization, we have to have staff who run the day-to-day operations, and we have board who help us with some governance issues and take on pieces of implementing some of our operational work. At Habitat for Humanity, you've got a little bit different programmatic structure because most board members probably help on builds, but they might not necessarily all help with choosing the materials or the vendors that you use. They might not all hire or interview the vistas that you are having on your team. There's some differences in the work that we're looking for so that board members can be outward looking and staff can be inward looking. John says, love number 5, but operationally objective and engaged about the executive director. I'm not sure what you mean there. Operationally objective and engaged about the executive director's role, for sure. The executive director does report to you all, but I'm talking more about programs. So Jim's comment, we've been all volunteer board and operations for years, just hired a full-time executive director. Got it. So this is a paradigm shift. So perfect. And it'll take time to become more strategically engaged as you have more staff. All right, so let's keep moving because I've got lots more content I want to cover with you. And if you're having trouble with the worksheet, just know that I'll keep bringing it up on the screen and you can just write the words down on a piece of paper. You have to have a team lead, right? That might be the board chair. That might be a key volunteer outside of the board. In fundraising, that's generally the executive director, or if you're fortunate enough to have the staffing, it's a development director. And with regard to having a team that does what I call great fund development work, remember that's raising awareness about your mission, you have to have somebody help you remember what our message is and keep it succinct and articulate. So thinking about who is our team leader and when do we defer to their guidance as staff or that team leader role of board chair or fund development chair, and when do we have there be larger discussions amongst all of us. Sometimes what I believe that keeps an organization smaller is that everybody gets involved in every discussion versus people taking on their committee work and drilling down deep into the areas where they have better strengths and skills. So exactly what is it that you want from board members? I believe there's a number of things that we want. Some of you describe them in words. Engaged, you want them to participate, show up, you want them to come prepared for meetings, talk about you regularly, know exactly what it is you do. But how do you provide direction to them so they can actually do that? Remember, if development is everyone's job, part of that means raising awareness about what you need the money for. Doesn't mean you have to ask for money. It does mean you have to know how much you're looking for and what is it that you could be saying to people to have them say, well, gosh, I didn't realize it cost that much. I didn't realize you raised that much money from the outside community. So I want to take you through a list real quickly. And these are some ways to be involved with development. Development is raising awareness and helping to ensure that there's adequate resources. So the first is that you make your own personal financial gift. If we're looking to the community to support our organizations, we for sure want to invite the community to give us time, talent, stuff, and dollars. Then we have to be willing to do that sort of same giving ourselves. So time, talent, stuff, and dollars. You want to also be willing to invite others to do things that are outside of the norm for them. Maybe it's come and volunteer. I believe not everyone has to be an asker, but if we're open to bringing a guest to something, if we're open to calling a former volunteer or a former donor and hosting them at one of your events, now you're really being involved with development and you're remembering to raise awareness and stay connected with our community. You want to invite people into the organization and act as an ambassador, I believe. And one of the most fun ways to do this is to know the names and who are your top 20, 30, 40, 50 donors. Who are the people, it doesn't mean they've given the most, who are the people who've given the longest, and maybe they give at some of the top levels. Who are they out in the community? Do you know their name? Do you thank them regularly? When you see them at church or when you see them at the grocery store, have you paid enough attention to the donor list that you can say, hey, I'm on the board at Habitat for Humanity, and I just wanted to say thank you so much, Jim, for all that you've done for us. I know that you've been on a number of builds, but I also know you make contributions to us, and those contributions matter. So inviting people into the organization, but also being an ambassador and an advocate when you're out in the community. I mentioned thanking happy donors, people who have just given recently. Thanking is a big deal. Thanking by phone, thanking by personal note. The timing of thanking is really key. Now, it's never too late to thank, but the best thank yous come when you make them within a couple of days of that gift coming into the office, especially when you're having a spring appeal or your Give to the Max Day appeal or your year-end appeal, to make sure that you have a process for the board to be involved in thanking can make the difference between retaining a donor for a longer period of time or having them go away and go somewhere else. In a study done nationally, the study was done with 27,000 donors. When board members made thank you calls to first-time donors, thank you calls just to the first-time donors, the second gift from that donor was 39% higher. Now, wouldn't that be amazing? And there's about a 40 to 50%, actually, it's a little higher than that, 50 to 60% attrition rate for most donors. They go away. Well, those donors who got a thank you call from a board member, a peer in the community, 2 years later, nothing else had changed except they had gotten that thank you call. 70% of them were still around. So making sure that board members participate in some part of that thank you process is key. Other ways to participate in development, the raising of awareness, is to be sure to know how much are we needing to raise this year? Where do I share that with my colleagues, my friends, my book group, in a fun way, in an update way, and make sure to be talking about what that gap will do for a real person. So might be telling a story and getting people connected to a real person whose life is different, a real family who has a home for the first time. And the last thing about development. Development is really that raising of awareness and keeping the dollars coming in is holding each other accountable. And accountability with board members can often feel like, well, we are just grateful that the seat is filled and that they're saying they'll be on the board. We don't want to call and rock the boat if they're not here. I say accountability is critical. We make sure that our staff shows up regularly. We make sure that our key volunteers show up, or we fill the slots when they don't. So why wouldn't we do that with our board seats as well? You want to be clear about the responsibilities, and I'm guessing you all have varying ways that you do this. What are the ways you reward your board? So designate someone to type in on the screen. Phil's got a question, and Phil, if you've got a question, I know you're raising your hand, just go ahead and just type it into the question box for me and I'll see it there. All right, so let's go ahead, and what I want you to do is designate a person to type into the question box. How do you reward participation? Do you give updates on rich dark chocolate? Jerry says, good idea. I wonder where you got that from. What do you do, though, to let folks know that having them there at that event, at that board meeting, participating in the selection committee, how do they know that that's a really good thing? Do you take attendance and show that? Do you high-five people as they're there? Do you have a dashboard that you show? Just have someone from your team type into the question box, we don't do anything, or we do this. Tell me what it is you do to reward participation. And here's why I'm asking. I'll tell you why I'm asking while you're typing in. One person from each of you that's on. We don't? Okay, some of you don't. Here's why. What happens is when we reward a certain kind of behavior, we actually will get more of that. So those of you who are saying, we don't do much yet, we do select a volunteer of the month and we take attendance at some of our meetings. That's great. I love that, Renee. Annual party, we have a meal, favorite beverage after some meetings. I bet those are adult beverages, Patrick. I hope that would be fun. Fresh coffee, I love that. We don't do anything, a couple of you are saying. So let's see some ways that you can participate, reward participation. And sometimes that reward is simply meeting a goal and talking about the goal and that the board helped you meet that goal. So choosing board members and committee members, I encourage you to have people on your committees that aren't board members, that are community members. But choosing them is part of the process of being a great board member. So you have to know what you're looking for, right? We have an empty seat and we're just going to fill it. Who's got any ideas? Who knows anybody who would like to serve on the board? Not the way I would fill your board seats. I do recommend using something like a matrix like this. But when you use the matrix, what I would tell you to do is not just fill it in and have board members' names listed and their constituency, their expertise, the demographics, and fill in the boxes. I would ask these questions instead. What are the 3 most important things for our board to accomplish this year? I'm going to say that again. When you're using a matrix like this, you want to ask this question and then another one more that I'll tell you. What are the 3 most important things for our board to accomplish this year? And the second thing would be, do we have the right people on the board to make that happen? And then fill in your matrix and have those areas, those composition areas at the top be about those 3 things. Do we need more sponsors for our events? Do we need families to be supported better in the recruitment and the application process? Do we need more volunteers on build sites? Do we need more fundraising dollars? What are the 3 things we want to accomplish? And then fill in the matrix and start to seek out people who will bring those talents, those skills to the table. Your board may start to look a little different when you do that. The matrix, just so you know, is one of the resources in the Dropbox folder. And if for some reason you cannot get to the Dropbox folder after tonight, I know that April will make those available in other places for you. The matrix, though, is in Excel format, so you can make it your own. You can fill it out, you can tweak it, you can do anything you need or want to, but I've created it in Excel on purpose for you. The second is have there be an application process. Not just a quick conversation, but on that application form, you want to ask people some questions. So this again is a form in the Dropbox folder that you can play around with and use. But the application form, we might all carry 1 or 2 of these or have it in an electronic version with your logo up on the top. I want to know my name, my address, all of that, my relevant experience or employment. But what I like to find out is what areas of expertise do you bring to the table that can further our mission? Have them fill in what they have as talents right there. I'd like to know if they've been a board member before. And if you've got a lot of people on your board all at one time who don't have board experience, guess what? You want to provide some more training. You want to go talk to Agnes in Alexandria about the training that she provides and the support that they provide for their board so that all board members feel that they're prepared and supported and doing a great job. I like to know what other volunteer commitments my board members have. And if they have more than fill in these 3 lines, I know that that might not be a good fit if they're already busy with other commitments. And then why are they interested in serving on the board and any other information. I usually recommend onboarding people at one time. I think most of you do that. In the application process, you might have different to use, but this one is there for you to edit and tweak and change if you'd like, or to add to your own. The other part of choosing and supporting is the orientation process. And if you have one, awesome, great, terrific. But if you don't, or if it takes a long time to have someone go through the orientation process, I want to just give you a couple of thoughts around what could happen. There is a document in the Dropbox folder that is a sample checklist, and this actually is pretty thorough. It talks about the special meeting, having a packet of information, having a personal phone call, having some follow-up contacts with that person and giving them a buddy, assigning them a buddy. But under each of these areas, what should go in the packet? Well, I like it to not have too much paper, and I also like the orientation packet to be gone through by another board member. Then the meeting, what should happen, who's coming, what, who's talking, for how long. And then make sure there's personal contact with your board, the new board member especially, after the orientation process. So those 4 key areas, you can take a look in Dropbox later. Having a strong onboarding process that doesn't just end at the orientation is key. You want to continue to check in with new board members, see how they're doing, see why they missed a meeting, understand what it is that's getting them excited or overwhelmed by participating at board meetings. One thing that I recommend for ongoing effectiveness is to have some sort of engagement document, a board agreement of some kind. Type into the question box designated spokespeople. There's at least, oh gosh, nearly 40 of you online, and I know there's lots of other people in the room with you in some cases, but I should see at least 35 yeses or nos right now. If you have a board agreement of some kind, would you type in yes? If you don't, just quickly type in no. I'd like to see what the layers are. Oh, good. Lots of you do. Oh, Bill's got shorthand, even just the Y. I love it. So a handful of you do not. In the Dropbox area, there are 3 different samples of board commitment forms, board engagement forms. One is the menu that you see on the screen. Another is this document that's actually 2 pages that you can make your own. It's very focused on fundraising, fund development activities, but the first page has overall board commitments. So take a look at those. They are in Word format for you so that you can edit them and make them your own or add to what you're already doing well. But I want to make sure that this is a way you can institutionalize the agreements that you have with me, and then this actually becomes a spreadsheet. So it might be someone's job on the board to actually tally up what we said we'd do, and then when we start to keep track of what we said we'd do, that becomes part of your dashboard throughout the course of the year. So what information do board members need to shine? Well, one of the things I like to have them have is a really strong dashboard to look at. And this dashboard uses lights, the colored dots, something that it needs attention or action. The yellow is something to watch, and the green is something to celebrate. And what this shows on this next section, and there's lots more sections that I'm showing you here, I just picked out a couple sections. One was the finance area, so it showed how much unrestricted cash we have on hand. We need to watch it because we've only got about 18 days of it here, and so that's in red. What's our surplus or our deficit year to date compared with our budget? So that is color-coded as well. What's our government funding year to date? Maybe yours would be sponsorships year to date, and what we should be watching for. Days from the end of the month to financial statements. So just again, what is it that you want me to pay attention to? Color coding it and having it show up differently than just in a Excel document can really help me see what to focus on. This organization also makes sure to provide information on how many foundations or corporations they've gotten funding from and how many new donors. So 6 months ago they only had 11, now they've got 82, and their goal is 100 for the year. So they're doing pretty well, but they have more work to do. What you want your dashboard to do is to give me some indication of what the action is you want me to take. This is a dashboard that I believe doesn't do that. We see contributions by month, okay, but what should I be doing about that? We see the individual donations over the last 3 years. They do show some attendance at their events, and they show their fundraising progress to date. But the reality is there's nothing on here like the previous document that shows me where we need to take action. This is more of a report out about the past than a forecast for the future. Talking about your funding gap and knowing what that is really key, I believe, for great board members. And what I call your funding gap is the amount of money that it takes to run your affiliate, and you subtract whatever you have in the door today from any government funding, any contributions, United Way, any fees, any sponsorships. What's here now that you can say is cash in hand, not grants pending, not even pledges, because they're not in the door yet. So you want to be able to know what that amount is in a way that is clear, that you can talk about regularly. This organization uses a pie chart. I'd love to see you use a house of some kind to show how much of your funding comes from foundations, how much comes from sponsorships, or how much comes from individuals. And where I fit in, I can see that philanthropy part, so that I know that you must have all the components to do what the work is that you do. If you know what the dollar amount is that you have to raise yet before the end of your fiscal year, type in that amount. All right, I'm just reading Irene's comment. In person is good, but I think online would be more appealing just because of time to travel. I'm not sure what you're talking about there, Irene.
Lori, I chatted. I asked a question.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so I would like you just, everybody designate your typer in person now. If you know how much money you have left to raise between now and fiscal year end, would you type what that is? Again, I won't say names here, I'll just say amounts. Some folks don't know, and I believe that person, I'm just checking my list, is a board member. So we want to know that, even if we're on the board. Don't know, not sure, I'm a new board member. Done, we're there, yay, high five. Don't know, new board member. 300,000, 10 to 15,000. Who else? There's more of you. All right, 192,600, way to go. Love the exactness of that. So one of the first things that I would ask you to provide to your board members, new and long time, is here's what we have to raise this year. And you update that on a regular basis. Jerry, I'm curious if you know. You and I have talked about funding gap a few times, so I'm guessing you know to the minute probably exactly what it is. But having this ready to hand, and it's information you can share with the community. You want to talk about why you exist, of course. What's missing in the community? There's not enough affordable housing. We make a difference and we bring affordable housing to the table, and here's how we do it. But it takes something. And every year we start with X number of dollars that we have to raise. And this year we still have about 10 or 15,000 left to go, and our fiscal year ends on June 30th. But let me tell you what it costs per house with time and talent. It also, we want to talk about one person, one family, the Jeremiahs of the world, like Jerry and I talked about earlier today. So if you have $30,000 to reach your fundraising goal, it might be different, Irene. A goal is a piece of your larger funding gap. The gap that you have is what you have to raise the whole year after you've started to bring some money in. So I have an organization I've worked with for a number of years, and they have a $1.6 million funding gap that is their fiscal year closes on June 30th of this year, and they closed that funding gap about 6 weeks ago. And 2 weeks ago, they had a $1.2 million fundraising event. Now that event raised money over 5 years. Why they closed their funding gap so early in their fiscal year is because they asked for pledges and gifts for multiple years, and they collect those throughout the year through different ways, different means of doing that. But by the time they get to their biggest fundraising event of the year, they're already raising for next fiscal year. So they'll walk into the door on July 1, and they'll have over $850,000 committed, not paid yet, but committed in pledges. And their job then will be to find an additional hundreds of thousands of dollars really to close their $1.6 million funding gap for next year. But I know the number, and so do their board and their staff every day, how much they have left to raise. What I'm hoping you see here in this conversation we're having is the most taken for granted and important component of the work you do as board members and staff might be communication. We think people understand exactly what we want them to do, but maybe we're not being exactly clear on what we want them to do. So I'd ask this question, and just you can answer this amongst yourselves there, but type in, if you've got your designated typer, what would a fully engaged and successful board look like? Would that mean you would build more houses? Would that mean you'd have more families who show up fully prepared and you are able to accept more families into the process? Would it mean you had more dollars in the door? Bridget, great. More funds to build more houses. You want this answer to this question, and I would ask you to ask this question, type in the answer now, but also ask it at a future board meeting. What would it mean if we were really successful, a fully engaged board? More families and homes on a sustained growth basis. Love that, Becky. And so you're being clear, and you might even have some numbers around sustained growth basis. So having a clarity around what it means to be successful means we have to actually support our board to be that for us and with us. The other question to ask yourselves is, what do we want our board members to do more of? And then have conversations about how do we hold people accountable to do that? So if we're building in accountability and specific participation, guess what we have to have? We have to have some visual display. And Phil says solid and sustained building process. So something that we can count on financially, we can count on volunteers-wise, we can count on with all the materials that we need. Measuring success by having visual displays is key. If we talk about what we want to get done and we don't look at a visual of what we want to get done, we won't ever move the needle. We'll just keep talking around in a circle. If we clarify and commit to specific duties, staff responsibilities, board and volunteer responsibilities, then we can start to take a look at, well, what do we want to have on the screen? What do we want to look at when we're on that dashboard when we're at a board meeting? And I believe accountability, when you hold yourself responsible and people hold you responsible for your actions, it shifts the conversation. It shifts how we show up. Responsibility basically implies there's a consequence, like a reward, like we close our gap early, so we've got enough dollars to close out this fiscal year, and we start, like what have you typed in the box here, we're done for this year, and now we're working on next year already. So being clear where we're at. Is there a visual display on your website? Is there, I'm not a big fan of thermometers, but is there some way that you can show the community and yourselves how you've done in addition to completing that home, but closing the funding gap? So I believe board members show up wanting to do a great job on day one. And sometimes something happens. And that might be that they just get assimilated into the culture of the organization, which is probably not for any of you, but might be for some other organizations I've worked with. And that is accountability around Attendance might be lacking, so people don't show up regularly and no one really says anything about it. So now I start to not show up at things. Raising my hand or telling what I really feel about something isn't really something that I feel comfortable doing because I am new and I don't want to ask the wrong questions. So now I'm quiet and everybody's quiet. So we have really quick board meetings and we just say yes to whatever the board chair, executive director brought in. I believe when you put some numbers and some metrics to our success as a board, we start to shift what we do and what we talk about. So to hold ourselves accountable, we actually have to have clear expectations. So some sort of agreement, like many of you have, prepare people to meet those expectations. We all want to be Irene and have fully trained and clear expectations and board that understands what they're supposed to be doing. But here's the rub. Oftentimes we don't monitor our own performance and we don't attach consequences to the monitoring of those performances. So when you think about attaching consequences, I know your minds go to where mine used to go to, and that is you get put in the corner when you're bad, Lori. Well, no, actually what can happen is we get to have one day where we celebrate closing our gap, having everyone recognized for all the work they did this year, letting a family come in and thank us personally. The consequences are a reward versus something bad. So measuring your activity, here's some recommendations I have about that. One is that you measure your financial information in graphs versus a document that is a spreadsheet. So show individual giving by category. And I'm more focused on individual giving just because I know that's one of the largest areas of growth for each of you. You've probably gotten your corporations and foundations pretty under a well-oiled machine. But taking a look at where do we get our individual contributions from, designate the board amount, show it in a different color. Show me how many dollars come in, gifts under $100 and gifts over $100. You can also measure how many donors you have and for each fiscal year. And then how many donors we're retaining and how many of those people are new. So this is donors retained and new donors. What you want to have happen is you want to retain 60, 70, 80% of your donors. I'm guessing most of you haven't looked at a donor chart like this, maybe a few of you who've been to sessions like this before, but taking a look at how many dollars are we bringing in from individuals, this chart, and how many of those donors are we keeping, and how many of those donors are new donors, and how many, of course, then if the opposite of the retained is the leaving. So it means 60% of our donors in fiscal year 2011 went away. What happened? Where did they go? Who are they? Are they my friends? Should I be calling them? This kind of data is what you want to be asking your staff to provide or your treasurer to provide if you don't have staff to do that, or your Vista, or whoever it is helping get those numbers pulled together. This is a governance scorecard, real true one that another organization has used. I like to have visuals that tell a story about what's been in the past and in the future. So we know that attendance is key. This organization wants to have 80% attendance at committee and board meetings. So this shows what the committee target and actual was, which is about 50%, not great. The actual board attendance was 60% and they're looking for 80. So we're looking for different things to happen in the months coming ahead. Board contacts, how many board members are reaching out to new folks in 2009? They haven't started 2010 yet, but they always show the previous year and the coming year. How many dollars did we say we would give versus what we pledged? They have a gap there. All the board gifts aren't in yet. Visibility building. Have any of our board members hosted us at their office? Have they invited us to speak at their book club? So they want to make sure that the target was 45 touches out in the community, and so far they had less than 5. Then they require some attendance, 80% of the board attending these 4 events. This forecasts what to do. This also tells us what has happened. And behind each of these nice charts was an actual list. Can we have a class on how to create these visuals? Do I need to have another degree? No, Shannon, here's what I'll tell you. They're really easy to create in Excel, and someone on your board is going to know how to do it, or one of your fabulous volunteers will know how to do it. You basically take a list, you put one piece of information in each cell, and it creates these charts really easily. But you don't have to do it. So great question. I know everyone's saying, this looks hard. It's not as hard as it looks. It's pretty, but it's not hard. This is another activity measurement tool from another group. This is the folks down in Louisiana who raised $1.4 million just a couple of weeks ago. This is their fundraising committee. Their board has a different graph that looks a little different, but then this is their fundraising committee. They have about 20-some people on it, and these are all different activities that they do. And they keep track of who's showing up, who's not, what, some of these folks that aren't doing things are no longer serving on this committee. Others, you can tell some like to do certain things, but each color is designated with a different task. And I know green was making phone calls and blue was attendance. So what do you measure now? Hopefully you measure the number of homes built. Maybe do you want to measure things like number of fundraising asks, number of thank you calls versus the number of gifts, number of times we talk about our funding gap. What else? You could measure lots of things. I don't recommend having a ton of things on a dashboard. I like your dashboard to be one page, a real simple one page, and it could have different information like this one does. But you get to decide together as a board what it is we're measuring. And that's part of the key. Okay, I believe I did not have you fill out a section on your worksheet. So I'm going to go back. I'm going to just take you back to it. And let me find the right page here. We talked about ways board members could be involved. Remember the list we talked about? And they were making a personal gift, maybe inviting others to give time, talent, stuff, or money. On your worksheet on page 2 or on your little notepad there, you want to just take a look at the top and fill in the question. Here's how board members in our affiliate assist with and participate in fund development. They make a personal gift, yes or no. They invite others to give time, talent, stuff, or money, yes or no. There's 6 questions here. If you would take just a moment and answer those for yourselves, yes or no. While you're doing that, I will get us back to the slide that we were on just a moment ago. So take a moment and go ahead and answer those for yourselves. All right, there we go. Here's what I know. Powerful contributions happen. People give their time, their talent, their stuff, or their money when they are feeling like they're in touch with their purpose. The reason that they're around is to help in some way. And when we show them that they're making a difference by measuring some of that activity, you know how great it feels when you're building that house and then the walls start to go up. There's a feeling of accomplishment. What if being a board member, my wall is that dashboard with 80% participation, 80% donor retention. That's part of the wall that I'm helping to build in addition to the house. Wouldn't that be an exciting way to be measuring our effectiveness? How many of you have a self-assessment tool? Go ahead and just type in yes or no, and I'm talking about like a matrix of questions you ask yourself, some sort of board self-assessment that you do at least once a year. Go ahead and type in yes or no. There is one in the Dropbox folder with all the templates and samples that I've got for you. This is actually a PDF. You can create your own pretty easily. I think this was just a Word document. Some of you are saying yes, many of you are saying no. Here's one of the reasons why I say to have one, and that is to make sure you're providing what your board needs, and they have an opportunity to tell you when they're not getting what they need. So this would be tallied confidentially or not, depends on how you want to do it. And then the governance committee would take a look at where we've got some holes in communication or support. There's questions on here like, how confident are you that most or all the board members know what results and outcomes we're expected to create each year? How confident are you that most all board members are adequately knowledgeable about our programs? You're both talking about each other and yourself, and you have a place to give comments here. Effective communication. Remember I said the key to having a powerful board and being a great board is communication? Well, there's two parts to communication, talking and listening. So getting the board to use the self-assessment tool, you got to have a partner on the board, someone who is holding them accountable, a peer-to-peer conversation. You can't leave the board meeting without filling it in. And if there's some missing attendance at the board meeting, we actually sort of hunt down and find those people, but it's board members who do that so that you get participation in using a matrix or an assessment form like this. All right, it's time for the pop quiz. So if you've got the worksheet handy, great. If not, you want to go ahead and just answer yes or no. Questions 1 through 7. We're at section 5, though, on the worksheet. All right, so here's my questions for you. The board signs an annual board agreement that clearly spells out what the expectations are for participation other than attending meetings. Yes or no? You want to fill that in for yourselves? Next question. And thank you. If you've got the answer handy there, go ahead and designate your person to type in what the consensus was of the group for question 1, so I can see your answers as well. And the next question is, our board members know we're expected to assist with development efforts? I didn't say they do, but I'm wanting to make sure that you're having them know they're expected to help. So question 2, great. Most of you are saying yes. Love it. Question number 3, I'm certain our staff, if we have staff, provides the board, the committee members and volunteers with data and support to be a great board member. Yes or no? Again, number of you are saying yes. Yes with an exclamation point. I love that, Irene. All right, question number 4. 100% of our board makes an annual financial gift. Yes or no? Number 4. Don't know. Some of you, yeses for some of you. We've got a handful of no's. It'd be great if you did know. And why would you want to know? So you can thank them. Close is okay, but no cigar. You want to make sure that you're having your peers, your board members, talk to each other about making a financial contribution. Question number 5. Our board members regularly share compelling stories about the families impacted by our work. Yes or no? How about quarterly gifts? Quarterly gifts is fine. Lots of you don't have stories being told. Judy, we've had some conversations and training about storytelling. I know we have. What you want to do is you want to make sure that board members get a chance to meet your families or meet someone that can tell them a story about your families. And then I often recommend you start board meetings with a board member telling a story, giving some giving real life examples of your work. So we remember why we're here, and then we have those stories in our tool chest to share. Question number 6, our board members regularly understand and share our funding gap with others. So question number 6, yes or no? And not sure? No? No. Most of you are no. So if your board doesn't know how much you have to raise, how could the community know? And why would they know that there's more to do to help? So it's not that it's bad or good, it's just that we have some places to go with our communication. Let me see what Jim said. Question 4, share a report card with entire board for accountability by member. You know, it's a great question, Jim. The folks down in Louisiana that I worked with for a long time started out not sharing their accountability report cards by member, and then they decided they really wanted to see where they stood out in where they measured up, and now they do. So it took them a little while, but they're really about making sure to know what is my strength and how can I participate within my strength area, which is why that worksheet is provided to you. This document that we're working on here tonight, it's both in a PDF form for you that you can use just as it is, or it's also in a Word document, so you can make it your own. So you can start to share information anonymously or not. Question number 7, and our final question. Our board conducts an annual self-assessment to measure board effectiveness. And most of you answered this already. I think the answer is likely no for many of you. And I would say this is a key area for more conversation. Use the template. I love there's a handful of you who are saying yes on question 7, so yay, good job. And if we could unmute, or if we were in a classroom together, I'd have you tell why it's a good idea and why it works that you have self-assessments, and has it shifted anything in accountability in how people show up. All right, so what we're looking to do is to provide our team, our board, our volunteers with information that can support you with some ease so they can understand what happens if they don't show up at a board meeting. It means we actually don't get as close to our goal as we need to. And there's some outcomes that change if everybody doesn't participate. Your board seats are really important. They're really critical. And what you want to have happen is that people understand a board seat at a Habitat for Humanity affiliate is an important role. It's a visible role in the community, but it's a visible role in our organization. And it comes with some prestige, but it also comes with some responsibility. And we want to be able to do that responsibility well using those gifts and talents that you designated on question number 1 on the worksheet. So I have a good friend, Jedi Master Yoda. He says, do or do not. There is no try. We can say that after tonight we'll try to do a better job communicating with our board. What I would say is pick one area that you communicate differently as board members with each other, and if you have staff, with your staff, and vice versa. The main thing is when you say we'll try, you give yourself an out. You give yourself an opportunity to not do it. I'll try to have coffee with you. I'll try to give you a call next week. Well, that lets me know that I'm not committed to it. So use the quote liberally wherever you want to, but have there be some certainty around what it is you're saying you'll do as the board and as an affiliate, and then do that or change your promise. So I'd like you to share in the chat box after you've talked amongst yourselves for just a second, what's one thing that you'll change at your affiliate to create an even more effective board? So first we'll answer that one. What's one thing? Pick your designated typer and have them type into the question box. What's one thing that we have to change, and we know we're going to change it, to create an even more effective board? And as you're thinking of that, oh good. Monitor board meeting attendance and reward attendance. Awesome, Becky. Chocolate does work. Talking about the goal in conjunction with the attendance works well. Financial giving accountability. Say more about what you mean about that, Jim. Will you keep track of who's been giving on the board and be more clear about that and share that with each other? Is that what you're saying? Restructure the board and the admin of affiliate. Not administration of the affiliate. Okay. Engage board members to thank donors. Love that. Improve attendance and engage board members to help. So you want to give me some, some menu items. What is it that, Lori, you're really busy? What can you do? We actually need some more board training, some of you are saying. We want to reward board members for being in attendance and engaged and inspired, but we also want to bring some more board members in to help us and then train them on how to be a great board member. Accountability, volunteer time, meeting attendance, we'll measure some of those things. More clearly defined responsibilities, love that. Follow through on the assessment we already started. Here's your own next question. For the person typing in and or the group that you're with, what will your very next action be? What will the very next thing be that you do? Will you debrief this meeting? Will you watch this webinar again with the rest of your board? Will you create a dashboard? Will you make a worksheet, an I'm a good board member worksheet of your own? What's your own next action? Watch the webinar again and share it with the board. Share the Dropbox documents with everybody. Review the webinar again. Lots of you are going to share this with the board. Good. Talk to Habitat Minnesota about board training. Got it. Review and prioritize our urgent needs. Have the whole board sit and watch this session. Yeah, Phil, it's a great idea, or Patrick, it's a great idea when you can do this session together and pause it. When you've got the video playing, you can pause it and do the exercises and talk amongst yourselves. If you do that, it would be about a 2-hour exercise probably. Communicate these tools to our board for implementation as much as possible. Create an Excel dashboard on the things we talked about tonight. Debrief at the next board meeting. Great. All right, so lots of great action here. The thing that I would ask you is, and this isn't on the slides, where are you at in terms of feeling like, and I'm going to pause for just a second and go back to the worksheet. Your own next steps that you typed in, you do want to fill in on your worksheet there. That's question number 6 on the worksheet that we have. I'm curious how this session was for getting you excited, or did it get you overwhelmed? Just be real frank and type in. I know you'll have a survey to answer at the end, but I know we had such a good reaction in the room when we did this session live. People got a chance to talk to each other. There was, give and take sharing. But there's a lot of information I just shared. And is it getting you catapulted to take some action? Is it, are you thinking, I don't even know where to start? Did we do our job in making sure there was tools? All right, so some of you are saying, love the tools. I'm excited. There's actually improvements I see that we can make specifically. Some of you are saying a bit of both, a little overwhelmed. We have much to do. Pick one thing at a time. Really take one step at a time. Maybe it's to create a dashboard. Maybe it's to figure out what we want to measure ourselves. One of the things I do say is, if it's not scary and a little overwhelming, it's not a big enough idea. So I love that participation here got your juices going a little bit. And what I would say for those of you who don't have full board attendance on the call tonight, invite, encourage, and implore a board member to get the rest of your board to watch this session all together and have some conversations with you. Because what one of the pitfalls is about this session is, you now are the guru of the information that we shared. You know what the tools are. You've got some ideas about how to use the board orientation checklist, etc. But they weren't here. And so now what you want to have is conversation together to get them understanding and up to speed and asking some questions and pushing into, where might this work in our organization? Where might it not work in our organization? So let me read some other comments here. I like the dashboard idea. Great direction on improving our board. Measurement is lacking, but the dashboard is a great idea. I'm not excited, but I am committed. All right, thank you, John. I love the honesty to a systematic approach as outlined here to build our board and enhance their performance. The tools will be helpful. I'm hoping that I can transmit this excitement to the rest of the board, and so use the webinar video to help you do some of that. This is a great read for you, The Fundraising Habits of Supremely Successful Boards. It's really short. It's less than an hour read, and it talks about being a roaring advocate, being passionate about your organization and willing to show it. It actually takes something, but what are those habits that you want to build? There's ways to stay in touch with me. One of the things I wanted to show you real quickly, I just wrote a blog post in the last week on my website, and that blog post is called 5 Questions Every Board Member Should Ask. So that was from May 15th. You can subscribe to my blog posts. They'll get sent to you by email every Wednesday, or just check out my website on Wednesdays. But this, I did not incorporate the 5 questions here. They're great questions that help focus your board on why we're here, what do we define as success, how can the board be of most value to this organization, what behavior have we been settling for, and then what 5 things should we track as a board. That'll help you figure out what to put on your dashboard. So I just wanted to make sure you know there's ways to stay in touch with me, stay connected. The handouts and the slides are in the Dropbox folder. And I believe we've got some time for either questions live or questions in the question box. So April, I'll let you decide. What is it that, what are some of the questions? And one of the questions, a few of you are saying, do you do this training for other nonprofit boards? I do, Robert, and to answer your question, I also I have provided through Habitat for Humanity Minnesota, the statewide office, some action planning sessions through some of the grant dollars that you have. So you may want to talk to Robert, talk to April. A couple of you were asking, we need to get some training for our board. April can fill you in on more of what's available with other folks and other resources as well.
Yeah, that was one of the things I was going to add. So exactly, there.
Yeah, good segue. There's the transition.
But we can. I just lowered all the hands, so we do have a few minutes. If you have audio, I don't want to just go ahead and unmute everybody in case you do have screaming children in the background or something. But if you wanted to talk or had a question that you wanted to ask and you have audio available for you, you could raise your hand and we can unmute you, or just continue to type in your questions or comments in that control panel.
Here's a great question. I'm going to jump in on this one. Robert says, if a board member just refuses to raise money, should they stay on the board? I don't believe everyone has to raise money, Robert. I do believe everyone has to give themselves. And then within those 6 or 7 areas that we listed on page 2 of your worksheet, they make a personal gift, they invite others to give time, talent, stuff, or money, they invite other people in, that they pick which area is their sweet spot. In addition to making a personal gift, they have to pick something else. And then you start to measure that for each of the board members. But I don't, not everybody's an asker. Some people are thankers. Some people are great shower-uppers. So you get to decide as a board and a staff, what are we settling for, and what is our bar? Where are we measuring to? And then have your board fit into that structure. Great question. What else? What else do you need or want to know? Raise your hand or just type into the question box. And maybe while we're waiting for any other questions, is there anything else that you wanted to touch on, April?
I think letting people know, especially if you are a USDA affiliate, and we have 21 of those, possibly 22, that the training with Lori is, I mean, it's just an incredible deal. And if any of the affiliates that have already taken advantage of that wanted to say anything about that, that would be great. But do go ahead and contact me. And as you were talking about hosting your boards and debriefing this webinar, having them view the recording together, I did post in the chat area that you could invite me or other Habitat Minnesota staff to join you when you do that as well. If it's sometimes kind of nice to have somebody else in the room to help emphasize some of those points. So we're happy to do that with you as well. Another thing I would say, and it's getting a little ahead of myself, but when you do get the survey, and it's really short, but there is a section where you can make some comments, and I think your testimonials or some of these things, and we'll capture some of your thoughts from the chat and from the questions, but anything that you can share that might there are affiliates who don't have anyone participating, and so trying to get them to go view the recording and do that together. Anything that, if you're feeling energized and kind of jazzed up about it, anything you can share that then we can use some of those words from people who participated to help convince them or persuade them to take that to the next level, that would be really great.
Patrick's got a question here. What's your feeling of the relationship that should exist between the board and committees? They're integral. They're both critical. The board can often be a little bit higher level vision in their governance role that they have. The committees is where the work gets done. So often groups that I work with, and I don't know how your affiliates are set up with regard to this, some groups I work with have every other month board meetings and every month committee meetings. So those committees is where they dig into creating that communication plan, or figuring out the thank you structure, how the board's going to be involved, or recruiting board members is talked about at the governance committee level, and then some of that work gets unfolded and brought to the full board. But there's a place for committees and the full board to work in conjunction. And April, there's a question for you.
Okay.
Are you able to help affiliates in South Dakota?
There is a state support organization in South Dakota. I would recommend getting in touch with Patty, but we can certainly talk offline.
And then does the state Habitat for Humanity offer assistance in fundraising by sharing best practices and benchmarked affiliates that are particularly successful in fundraising through individual donor giving?
We were actually just talking about that today. I mean, one example, yes. And so we're working on a fiscal year 14 training plan. And so, I mean, one of the things that we know from an affiliate survey of Minnesota affiliates is that fundraising is an area where folks want help. So in addition to working with Lori, also using HFHI, but then we have, for example, and this is not the only one, but successful affiliates. And so Rice County as a best practice award winner for their Give to the Max Day campaign, and not to mention Habitat Minnesota did a good job with that. And so being able to share some of those successful strategies, that was a really popular session at the OLE Conference, and then looking at how do we use those best practices ambassadors to share some of those strategies as well. So it's definitely something that we would be looking to offer even more assistance with in the coming year.
Good answers, good questions. Anything else? I love that you guys stayed so engaged given all the challenges of getting worksheets and slides, and you did a fabulous job. There would be chocolate flowing at you right now if we were in person. As Jerry knows, I'm a Dove chocolate fan, and I share it liberally. So imagine that I'm giving you piles of it at your different offices and homes right now. All right, I'm going to go to the next slide for you. There you go. April, you're on.
Great. We just wanted to take this opportunity with all of you on here just to mention the next webinar opportunity that would be available. We are doing monthly webinars. This is one, it's a little bit different, about also building on some momentum from the OLE Conference and our session on the search for home and Twin Cities Habitat for Humanity and their Housing Matters program. And so they have this Build, Think, Act advocacy curriculum. It is for affiliates to use on the work site, and half-hour training during the lunchtime. So that's what the picture is showing there. But this would be Jill, the Civic Engagement and Educational Programs Manager at Twin Cities Habitat, has received all kinds of inquiries about how do we do this at our site. And so this is really the first step in this introduction and finding out a little bit about what it is if you weren't at the OLE Conference and you're not sure what it is, getting a little taste of the activity, but really finding out what are the things that you need to have in place to be ready to launch that at your own site. So that's what this next webinar is. Again, it's free, and you can, registration is available now at eventbrite.com, the buildthinkact.eventbrite.com. And then we just have, again, just to encourage you to complete this brief survey as you exit today's webinar. If you had multiple people participating in one spot, I'll send you a follow-up and send a survey to you so that you can all respond separately. There will be just one chance with this registration, but we'll make sure to reach out to those of you who had multiple people participating, and at least try to get that out to everybody. And just a big thank you to Lori for her excitement after that session at the OLE Conference, for offering to share her expertise tonight. Thank you to all of you for giving up a dinner time or rushing it off right after work to log into the webinar. So thank you so much for your commitment to Habitat, and we appreciate you being here, and we hope it just
Thanks,
continues
everyone.
to build. Absolutely.
Yeah. Have a great night and good luck with your fundraising, and stay in touch.